morning, everybody. I'm Brandy Dorman. I work at Crestview Nursing and Rehab Center in West Branch, Iowa. I'm the activity coordinator there, and we do a lot of gardening there, and I'm just going to talk about garden therapy and activities that you can do to help your loved ones or things you can do for yourself just to do some stress reduction. Garden therapy or horticultural therapy is actually defined as a formal practice that uses plants, horticultural activities, and the garden landscape to promote well-being for its participants. Therapeutic garden is an outdoor space that is specifically designed to meet the physical, psychological, social, and spiritual needs of the people that are using the gardens. These can be caregivers, family members, friends, or the person going through an illness. Therapeutic gardens can be found in a variety of settings, including hospitals, nursing homes, assisted living residences, outpatient centers, and hospice residences. In a therapeutic garden, your time may be spent being active, such as planting things, or you might be passive, such as spending time quietly in a secluded part of the garden. It would all depend on your needs. Therapeutic gardens often have accessible paths, a lot of raised flower beds, container gardens, sensory-oriented plants, meaning they would have fragrance or a certain texture, vibrant colors. There's strong scientific evidence shown that exposure to nature reduces our stress levels and promotes our well-being. And we can think about our own life when we're out in green spaces, in the park, doing some gardening on our own. How do we feel? Are we a little more calm, a little more relaxed? Research has shown that outdoor exercise can be an effective antidepressant in treating mild to moderate anxiety and depression. So you might think about walking with someone outdoors. I know our physical therapists, sometimes when they're trying to motivate somebody who isn't really wanting to walk as much, they might offer to let them go outside and do some walking, and that seems to help them focus maybe on the plants or just being outside, and sometimes they'll get a little more walking done and more enjoyable for the resident or the patient, and helps get them stronger. The outdoors can often calm the agitated. You get a change of temperature, you get a change of just the air, you get a light breeze, different smells in the garden. Doesn't always work right away, but sometimes just having a change of pace can help someone just calm down and make their day a little bit better. Some patients like to sit and just watch the day go by outside. Often we like to watch the new plants and flowers open. It's a great time in the garden just to have some quiet time or me time. In a nursing home setting, most people share a room, and that can lead you to not have as much quiet time or feel like you don't have as much quiet time. So going out in the courtyard or the garden can just help you relax and have a little bit of that time that you used to have. At Crestview, our courtyard or garden is heavily used. We have people walking and looking at the flowers every day when it's nice out. People like to work on their word search puzzles, read the paper, read books. One man eats lunch out there almost every day. It's just a nice, quiet time for him. It helps it feel like home. Most people are used to sitting in their backyards when the weather is nice, or maybe doing a little bit of gardening. So this is just another added benefit to help people feel like they're still at home when they need to be somewhere else. We have a variety of plants at Crestview. Certainly a lot of things that would be familiar to people in Iowa who have lived here their whole lives. Things such as iris, daylilies, autumn joy sedum, knockout roses, ornamental grasses. And then of course every year we plant a lot of annuals, and we get input from the residents what they might like to see. Things like dusty millers and marigolds and geraniums. Residents usually help with some of the planting. We have some pots, and we've had raised kind of containers before that they can help with some of those annual plantings. Even those people that aren't able to or don't really want to get their hands dirty, They like to supervise it, like to help tell you how you need to do it because they've done it so many times, and there's a lot that we can learn from them. And that's just really nice to let them share their knowledge with us. We also have residents who kind of help out even at the end of the year, letting us know how we need to clean the garden, how we need to prepare it for winter, you know, mounding up those roses so they'll come back. And I know they get a lot of joy out of teaching us how to do things too. The therapeutic value of the interaction is certainly having a sense of ownership and pride in the garden and that sense of responsibility for the garden. But as I've said already, it's certainly a way for them to share their knowledge and feel like they still have a purpose in helping us. Well, plants also bring a lot of wildlife out to the garden. We have a lot of residents that love to see the butterflies and the birds, and every year we have 2 sets of robins that build nests in the little gutters, and we have people, that's right by our dining room, so people will look at that every meal and they will watch those birds and they will wait for those babies to pop their heads up and mom to feed them the worms, and it's just a really fun activity for them that's just provided by nature for us. We've also used some videos of the Decorah eagles. We would have those out, and that has just provided hours and hours of entertainment and enjoyable things for the residents. I was going to mention one other time we had a bunch of us sitting out just for our little garden party, and it really was a moth, but everybody thought it was a butterfly that sat on the wheelchair, and it wouldn't leave. We were ready to go in. The lady picked it up with her finger, and we passed it from person to person. We had enough time to go in and get the camera. We've got pictures of it for everybody. And it was just such a nice, it's so nice to be able to have nature right there with you. It really calms people down. A year later, we're still talking about it. And when we're talking about people that have some memory issues, that's a really big deal. It really touched people. So just the smallest little things will bring joy to people in the garden. So I'm going to just share some activities that you can do, and I'm going to go seasonally. These are just things that we've done or things that you might try a variation of them, and if you want to ask me any questions about it, that's just fine. But I'll start with the season right now. Some, though, my first one will be flower arranging. You can certainly do that at any time of the year, but certainly now in the flower, we're at a good boom. People can go out and either pick their own, or they can tell you which ones they want you to pick, and then you can bring them back inside, let them, whatever their level is, use the scissors, cut them, how high do they want them, what do they want to put together. And then I've also used it with people that are at a later stage in their dementia, and maybe they need me to hand them the flower, or maybe they just need to tell me which color they want to put in. But either way, we can make certainly a very nice bouquet of flowers. Sometimes we put them on the tables out in the dining room. Sometimes they take them to their room. It just depends, you know, what we're feeling that day. Tomatoes are in season, and we've done a lot of tomato taste testing. I've got a big tomato plant right now that's, you know, just going like crazy, so I can't even get rid of it, but we take them in for some bingo prizes. I have one lady that used to live up the street from me, and she's just happy as a clam to get those tomatoes. Everyone's proud taking them down to the dining room to have them for lunch or for supper, and just those small things make a big difference. You could make pesto, something new that they haven't probably tried before. Making jelly is always fun, a little time consuming, so you got to think about your audience. Anything that you can get out of the garden, you can certainly try a new recipe or try a familiar one. That's always a big hit. Harvesting and drying herbs is another idea. That would be fun later on if you were going to use those herbs. Maybe some dill and you were going to make a pasta salad with dill or with the potatoes, but you can remember what you did earlier in the year. In the fall, it's often fun to take a drive and see the changing leaves. If that's not an option, maybe somebody's bedridden, it would certainly be a nice option to videotape that. Most of us have our phones that we just have a little videotape on. You can hook that up to the TV and watch it larger for those people that have some vision problems. Collecting leaves and pressing them or making the colored rubbings is a pretty fun activity. And then just to make it a little bit nicer, sometimes we'll frame those, just makes it look a little fancier. You can also save seeds for next year. So everybody loves the tomatoes. It's fun to save those seeds, let them see the process, and then plant those next year. We'll remember what we did. And then, of course, planting bulbs. Bulbs, when the tulips and the daffodils come up in the spring, everyone's overjoyed. And I know this year people have already been talking about we need to get some more because the squirrels or they rot, whatever happens, we do need some more. So that'll be a big group for us this coming fall. In the winter, sometimes people feel like maybe there's not as much to do, but planting amaryllis is our biggest gardening activity, probably hands down. Thinking again about the audience, because some people are impatient, but I always like to give them reminders that at times it might take 3 or 4 weeks for that one bulb to get going, and sometimes that poker is right on there and you're going to see a lot of stuff. So we just have to think about that. But usually when I get a group together for the amaryllis planting, by the time I brought the last person in, some people have already started on their own. They're just really excited about it. And it's really nice, especially for some people that maybe need a lot of care. They still have the opportunity to care for something and watch something grow, and it makes a big difference, and it's fun. The residents like to walk through the halls and see who's got this in this room or that room. Then we always have a few just in the community spaces for people, so that's a really fun activity. I also usually have some gardening videos that just have plants that scroll through, and I'll put those on in the winter when we're getting ready for another group, just for something to watch. And people's memories come back with the names of the plants, or I used to have that. A lot of reminiscing goes on. I even think, watching golfing is pretty nice in the winter, just all that green space. People seem to light up with that. We've made birdseed ornaments that we've hung outside before. And another fun thing to do is make starters off the plants. We can make starters off the African violets or spider plants or aloe vera, something like that, that then they can take back to their room, and they've just got a little something green to get them through the winter. It's kind of hard for all of us, but if you're not leaving the building, I think you get a little bit of cabin fever even easier. If you are able to get out, I think it's always fun to go take a trip to the greenhouse. You get all that heat, makes you feel good in the winter, and you just have so many things, and that would be another opportunity to just pull your phone out and take a few pictures or a little bit of a video, and that might be something fun for people. In the spring, certainly we like to look through the seed catalogs and start to plan the garden, and then again, just planting those seeds, stuff that we had from last year, or getting things started, is just a really great way for people to have something to take care of. We have several people that like to talk to the plants and help them grow, which is great. Studies do show that it does help them grow, something with the vibration, and so we have a lot of people that like to do that, and it gives them something fun to do for the day. Spending time outside in the garden has been shown to positively affect a person's emotions and improve their sense of well-being. Garden therapy restores a sense of control, and it improves the quality of life. So I hope I've given you some ideas of how you can use gardening activities to help your loved one, or something you can use yourself. And if anybody wants to have a tour of our garden at Crestview, I'm always happy to give a tour, and I'm sure I'll have some residents that will help with the tour also. So you can just give me a call at Crestview. I'm happy to do that. Does anybody have any questions?
I enjoyed your talk, and wow, just the things that you do with your residents is very impressive.
Thank you.
Because I feel that, those of us who are gardeners, once we've had our hands in the dirt, it's hard to get them out.
It is. So sometimes I will have someone that specifically was in garden club or whatever, and sometimes when we get donated flowers from certain things, I'll let them just go ahead and make some of the bouquets, because they'll spend hours doing it. And it's really a lot of fun. And I find even people that didn't do a lot of gardening, sometimes they still want to watch, even if they don't want to get their hands dirty. But all of us that have been gardeners, we like getting our hands dirty.
Randy, what is your gardening background?
Nothing formal. My mom was a huge gardener. We had a jungle in the living room of house plants. My grandpa had a big, a farm, and had a big personal garden. My uncle always did a lot of gardening. We would go through and we'd have to learn the names of everything. What's the name of that? What's the name of that? And at the time it was very annoying as a young child, but I'm always grateful now that I have that knowledge. And my aunt and uncle owned the North Liberty Flower Shop. So we've got just kind of a lot of plants and gardening background.
Well, I appreciated your presentation also, and especially love the way that, I love, and I'm going to call it an intervention, but it's really just an activity and an enjoyable pastime, but things that kind of stimulate people on so many different levels, because you talked about just being outside and or seeing green or living plants, working with plants is one thing, but then connecting the seasons and maybe the memory of those activities as they string together for people who, that is amazing when you think about all the ways that it can really benefit people, who are maybe struggling with cognitive decline or memory issues or physical decline. It's like, why wouldn't anybody do that? And I know that there's been a lot of research, like you said, that shows that when people in nursing homes have something to take care of themselves, it really improves their experience, their quality of life. Yeah. So good job. Great work.
Thank you.
My name is Sharon Jeter. I am a Johnson County Master Gardener. That I have been for about 10 years now. Gardening has always been a passion of mine. I think it came from early on. My father was a big gardener. He came from a farm family. We didn't live on a farm, but he came from the farm. We came from a farm family, and he had a big garden, and it was just watching him enjoy the different seasons in the garden. Of course, as a kid, you have to get out there and help harvest those vegetables and fruits. And I remember as an adult one time with him, he said, "Sharon, you want to come down and pick strawberries?" And I said, "Oh, sure, Dad, I'll come down." And so I went to pick strawberries, and as I was picking strawberries, I looked at him and I said, "Dad, I'm never going to make a living doing this." So I commend those people who are strawberry pickers, because it is definitely work, but it is an enjoyment in such. But I just want to begin with saying, wow, Brandy did a great presentation, and I feel that some of this may be repetitive, but that's okay. It's my perspective of it, and it's how I use it, in my life to relieve my stresses. I am a cook for a fraternity, a medical fraternity here in town. I love it, and I'm able to take my husband with me whenever I want to. And I think that cooking and gardening, I say that because I believe that cooking and gardening, go hand in hand a lot, because of growing, like Brandy said, of growing your produce and then enjoying it. But anyway, back to, is just early in my life, I had teenagers, and I had a difficult teenager, and gardening was a real stress reliever there for me. It was a form of therapy. When I could get home, when I would get home after dinner, I would say, okay, I'm going out to the garden. I needed that time to get everything out of my system. At this point of my life, I am the primary caregiver for my husband, who suffered a stroke and is home with me, and home when I'm not home. So I use it in those aspects of my life to relieve the stress. But to garden, working in a garden, additional to being a good, fresh, healthy produce producer, you also get very much enjoyment out of the different flowers. It relieves the stress. It helps me limber up. It improves my mood. Going out in the garden is such a therapy, because you go out and you walk through the garden, and oftentimes, I sit out on our back patio, and I just sit there after I'm done gardening, and I listen to the birds, and I can hear the breezes in the tree, And that is a very soothing aspect of gardening. You know, at the University of Colorado in Boulder, they've been working on a study, and that is about dirt and the benefits of gardening in dirt. Okay, it's at the University of Colorado, and they have injected mice with the Microbacterium vaccae, which is a harmless bacteria. It's commonly found in the soil, and they have found that it increases the release and metabolism of serotonin in parts of the brain that control cognitive function and mood. And I've always said, as a gardener, to my friends as we get together, I've always said, you know, and my master gardener friends, you know, when I get to that point in my life where I cannot live in my home and I need to live elsewhere, I have to live somewhere where I can have my hands in the soil. You know, it's just a feeling of having your hands in the soil that, to me, is such a stress reliever. I know that gardening is not for everybody, and I hope those who don't garden get, perhaps outside gardening, perhaps get some enjoyment out of the indoor gardening, because I have numerous plants, green plants, that they go out in the summertime. In the wintertime, I bring them in. I have a nice big window in my kitchen that's a south-facing window. And I line the plants up there, and all of a sudden you feel like you're in a greenhouse. And at work, I take my plants to work. In the dining room at work, we have a back wall, and I take them and the students get the enjoyment out of having the green line the back of the dining room. And so at least I'm lucky enough to have a place for all the plants that I have, because it seems like when I don't use them outside, I bring them inside. See, there was one thing that I wanted to you talked about amaryllis, and I think that that's wonderful. I have a number of amaryllis. I mean, a number. In fact, this last spring, my friend said, plant them out in the garden. Well, I had never done that. I've just taken the pots outside and that. And she said, you'll see the bulbs get so much bigger. And why I didn't know this, I don't know. But so I have them planted in my garden, and I will be glad to donate some of my amaryllis to Crestview in the fall, because I have more than I really need in my house. I've gotten very selective in that. I talked, as I said before, if it's anything in life, if it's a chore, it's stressful. And you have to find what's right for you. And I found that gardening is a very relaxing way, very relaxing in my life. I have a friend who, she's calling me, and it's, Sharon, please come over. I just don't know what to do with this. And she said, I want it to look nice, but I hate gardening. So I help many friends out in different ways. Besides my gardening for therapy, I am lucky in that I do the gardening at an apartment building that my son owns on Burlington Street. I do several sororities. And so, you know what? I get paid for my therapy. I don't have to pay for it. I get paid for doing therapy because it's, I'll take my husband with me at times. He'll sit in the car while I'm gardening. If it's just a quick trip, I just go over and garden for an hour and come back home. But it's very relaxing to me. And as far as seasons in the garden, you touched on seasons in the garden. The spring for me, and I know many gardeners do the same thing, but the spring is just such a release. I'll get up and I'll have my coffee and I will go out and I will walk through the garden. You know, there's basically not very much there, but you see that beginning of that bulb coming up. You know, you see those first leaves on the tree. It's a daily ritual at my house to walk through the garden and see what's new for the day. Of course, the summer brings so many colors. My children, when they're home and they ride with me, they'll say, "Mom, watch the road. Don't be looking at all the gardens," because my eyes caught by this or that. There's all these little things in life that, you know, we don't look at them that way, but when I sit and think about them, they are making me take that extra breath and just relieve that stress. Of course, nothing is better to me than in the fall, when the leaves are blowing from the trees that day, that there's just enough breeze in there and you can just see the leaves fall. And if you have that, I remember it from childhood, but I still find myself doing it as a mood relaxer now, and that is you have that fall evening where you might have a light mist in the air and you take the walk through the neighborhood and you feel the leaves crunch under your feet. All these things are very good stimulus for our mood. The wintertime, of course, like I said, I bring my flowers in at what I can, what I need. I spend my winters looking through the seed catalogs, planning my garden. All these things are mood releasers. I mean, in many parts of my life. With Master Gardeners, you know, I have gotten so much enjoyment, so much release. I know it's regularly once a month we have a steering committee meeting, and I serve on the steering committee, and I take Denny out with me when I can, not to the meetings, but when I can to the different functions. We have functions that are put on by the Master Gardeners, but it's the Master Gardeners. We have different things that are very good for relieving stress. There's a hospice garden at Willow Creek Park that we plant and maintain, and that's a very peaceful place to go, just to find a garden, to take a walk. All that, it's not hands-on gardening, but it is being in a garden, you know, just enjoying other people's work. You talked about butterflies. You know, we have a beautiful butterfly house out at the fair every year. They have hundreds of butterflies on, and it's very enjoyable just to go out there and watch the people go through, the people of my age and older who take their grandchildren out there to see the butterflies, to experience that. That's very, very helpful to me.
I have a comment and then a question, because I really appreciate all the suggestions that you made that aren't necessarily hands in the dirt, because I'm in your club. I love gardening, but I didn't discover that about myself until later in life. So I do think even if people don't know that about themselves, they might this will hopefully be an encouragement for them to maybe explore some ways that they can get outside and just appreciate gardens in the community, you know, taking a walk through Willow Creek Park, just noticing the colors at different, you know, landscaping and such. But what if somebody does feel like they want to try this, but they're a beginner? As you know, as a member of the Master Gardeners, what are some resources available to newbies to gardening in terms of the Master Gardener program? Do you guys sponsor presentations or classes, anything like that?
Yes, we do. And you know, it would be master gardeners, or all gardeners, are very, very willing to share and to help somebody get started. You can call the hotline. The master gardeners have a hotline. You can call the extension service. You can say, I think I want to help out with something. At this point, I'm not ready to do any classes. I don't know enough about it. And we have many opportunities that we would take people to help volunteer and teach them. I have a friend who several years ago, it was a girl that I had gone to school with. She was a couple years younger than me. She moved back to Iowa from California and Colorado. She called me up and she said, Sharon, I want to do a garden, but I really don't know anything about it. Would you help me? And so she lives down in Kelowna, and I've gone down numerous times, and we've become good friends. And, I was just down the other day, and I walked into her backyard, and I go, oh my goodness, this is such a transformation from when you began. Because one thing leads to another, be it a friendship, be it the interest in gardening. Yes, the master gardeners would love to help out. And I'm sure that even with the senior center, they could put you in contact with somebody, because the master gardeners do the gardens at the ecumenical towers downtown. We have numerous places in town that we maintain gardens for the public. So it's not just the Hospice Garden at Willow Creek. We have the Firefighters Memorial. We have the Ecumenical Towers downtown. We have the old schoolhouse. We have the fairgrounds, and I should know all of them. Plum Grove. If you've never been to Plum Grove, you should go when Plum Grove is open and just walk around the grounds. That is very, very interesting. And if you have not heard of it or ever been to it, there's the Taste of Plum Grove that's held every year in July, that we gardeners prepare foods that were grown in the time that Plum Grove was actively being lived in, and serve it. We had over 300 people come to our Taste of Plum Grove. We have a free tomato testing this Sunday at Plum Grove that we've all been growing heirloom tomatoes for. The only problem there is I don't want to have everybody come out in tasting these tomatoes, because this year the weather has not cooperated as well as in previous years. In July we had too many days in the 70s, 70 day, 70 night, and those gardeners out there who are listening to this and have grown tomatoes know that tomatoes like the hot weather. Just like the corn forecast I heard on NPR this morning that said last week was the best week for growing corn because it was consistently hot days and hot nights. And tomatoes are the same way. So we're hoping that we have enough heirloom tomatoes for everybody to try. But thank you.
Yeah, that's great. So it sounds like there's just a rich and diverse amount of opportunities for people, even if they don't think they want to make a garden, or just to learn and see what's happening in the community garden wise, and getting some of that just nature infusion of well-being.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's right, because schools are going to school gardens now. We've been helping on numerous school gardens, just going in and helping them get those gardens planted and starting that gardening early in the child's life, so they see that this food they eat, they can grow it and eat it. And Oak Knoll has a beautiful garden and has a tremendous master gardener over there, Mary Lou Gay, tending the gardens, and I've heard that she's just doing a phenomenal job. I'm going to have to go over and see them myself, because Mary Lou is quite good at design. She's helped us along the years for many years. So, Well, thank you very much. I hope I've given some information to those of you who are looking to use gardening as a stress reliever, because I can't imagine not having it in my life, and especially at this point of my life. My husband Dennis used to be my biggest companion in the garden, in not that he got his hands in the dirt, because he didn't do that unless it was shoveling the mulch and the dirt that I had brought in. But if there was something I needed built, it was just, hey, I need this gate, I need this fence, I need this box. And it would get done. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sharon.